Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Market Down Podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined this week by James Gisante, and we start in the very obvious place of the fallout, I guess, of all of the rumors that were running rampant on Tuesday night that WWE had been sold and had possibly been sold to Saudi Arabia. Now, all of that the next morning was proven to be not true and a very rampant rumor that started online. And as we all know, wrestling Twitter and wrestling Reddit and everything, it spread like wildfire and everybody just took it as fact. Now, clearly that is not the case, much to the relief to a lot of us. But just to run down what happened. So yesterday, Stephen Mulhausen, amongst others, tweeted out that they had sources saying that WWE had been sold to Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund and that the company would go back to being private. And there was a chance that Vince could return to running creative. Then overnight, all of that went away. Like I mentioned, a lot more credible reporters, not to disrespect Mr. Mulhausen, but people like Ariel Hawani were tweeting out that contrary to the reports stating otherwise last night, there was no deal at this precise moment for WWE to be sold to Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund or any other entity. They're still exploring all options. So we had went live on Tuesday night and discussed the possibility of WWE being sold to Saudi Arabia. And at the time, we weren't treating it as fact, but we were treating it as if we were in a world where it was true. And we said what we said about Saudi Arabia, but we also mentioned the fact that, James, that these things take a very long time. It's a very long process. The company has a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders, which they have to go through. So I'm not surprised this came out as false. I am fairly relieved, as I imagine you are, but obviously it's going to take quite some time for the sale of WWE to actually go through, no matter who buys it.
So first and foremost, I would like to say to everybody who was watching last night, everybody who was with us, our bad. Our bad. Again, as Nick just said, we were doing our best to report what was being reported. We weren't trying to make any assumptions. We weren't trying to state anything as fact. We were just reading the news with you guys, and we were talking about it. So once again, our bad.
Hey man, we covered our asses. we
we
covered our asses.
We did it by the book. All right. For me, yeah, on a personal level, super happy that it's not a done deal and it might be a falsehood entirely. Super happy about that. What this means for WWE, we don't know. Is it possible that this is a gentleman's agreement that just isn't official yet? It's possible. Is it possible that WWE did this as a way of like gauging reaction and interest and from the fans? Possible. Is it a wild rumor with no basis that came out of nowhere and just spread like wildfire? Possible. We won't know. We won't know until they actually do sell. And even then, we probably won't know all the details. For the time being, I'm just very happy to say the reports were wrong, even if it's just for now. That said, we are going to be dealing with this for a long time. WWE does intend on selling. Vince McMahon is the chairman again. The stock jumped up to a year high today. It went up to close to $100 a share.
Yeah, I saw it in the 90s during the CNBC clip where the talking head was just ripping into everybody who bought the rumor last night and reported it.
It's like I said on the live, I've been following the stock market for a while now, and the reality is nothing gets the market to jump like a rumor. Actual stuff happening doesn't get the shiny green line, sometimes red line, to go up like a rumor does. So we are going to be dealing with this for a long time. Even before this was reported as fact, Saudi Arabia was on the list of potential buyers. So I don't know if they're out of the running now. I don't know what's happening, but whether it's Saudi Arabia, Disney, Comcast, whoever, a sale is going to happen sooner than later because that's the goal. And still a weird feeling, but I'm holding out on the hope that we do not go with Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I would hope that too. I talked a lot the other night about, the Live Golf Tour and how that has affected not only golf, but just the sports washing of everything, and how just weird of a practice that is. And, them trying to make themselves look legit to the eyes of the Western world while they're out there murdering journalists. So I'm hoping that WWE doesn't become involved in all of that. The crazy part about all of this is because of all of those rumors, I feel like the actual news that happened the other day got vastly underreported, because as Vince came in officially, along with the other two board members, Stephanie McMahon resigned as CEO, and Nick Kahn became the permanent CEO as Vince once again became chairman. So Stephanie, I think for the first time in her adult life, is not involved in the company now. And I actually think that's far bigger news than any potential. Well, I guess that's not bigger news than a potential sale, but it's definitely now, I think, bigger news than all of the false rumors that came out the other day. I'm honestly fairly intrigued to see what this company looks like without Stephanie McMahon involved in it.
It's more than anything, more than the intrigue to me. I'm actually sad. It's a sad story.
Weird feeling, right? Like all the
like,
times we're like, go away, Steph. Now she's gone, and it's like
the reality is, when it came to Stephanie McMahon, I never really had a problem with how she was working in the company. Maybe I had issues with her on-screen character, but
that's what I meant by go away. Her on-screen character.
Yeah, of course. But she's worked diligently for WWE, like you said, her entire adult life. Like at the end of the day, she is a McMahon, and she's got McMahonisms like the rest of them do. But she worked hard for this company, and she survived a lot of turnaround. She survived a lot of change. And in the back of our minds, we always had it in our head, when Vince was gone, Triple H and Stephanie were going to be running the show. That's what we were always assuming. That's what we were always kind of told was going to happen. And we had it for a couple of months. And that's it. Stephanie's out. And we're all kind of eagerly anticipating what this means for Triple H, regardless of who it's sold to.
Yep. Early reports are he's going to stick around probably no matter what.
And I would love for that to be true. And again, that makes me sad for Stephanie, because what does she do from here?
Well, Stephanie last summer stepped away for a little while in an attempt to spend more time with her children. And I think that's what her plan is now, is to just go home and be a mom.
And I wish her all the best in that. But admittedly, there is a difference from taking a sabbatical, taking a leave of absence, versus done forever. So I don't know what, maybe she's going to be a full-time mom now. That's hard to imagine for someone like Stephanie McMahon or any McMahon to not be working hard on something. But, time will tell, and I wish her the best in her future endeavors. That was
it had to happen. It had to happen.
I held on to that one. But weird time. And I've said it last night, I've said it in chat, I've said it before. It's easy, they make it really easy to crap on WWE, on the product, on how things are run. But again, this is a company I've loved since I was a kid. And to see it in this weird state that nobody knows what's going on, it's not a good feeling. I don't want to ever rip on WWE. Like, I don't find joy in it. I'm not trying to be a troll, and when I'm upset with stuff, I complain because I care, and I feel let down sometimes. And I just want it to be better. And I don't know what the future holds for this company. I'm really hoping, honestly, at the bare minimum, I'm hoping whatever stories are in play right now are able to get told till Mania. You know, I hope we get to Mania and whatever was supposed to happen happens. But after that, I have no idea what I'm hoping for with this company anymore.
Yeah, you sound like me with the Mets when the Wilpons were owning it. It's like it's so easy to crap on these people, but I complain because I care.
Yep.
But then they got bought by a billionaire owner and things are looking up. So maybe history repeats itself.
But we're going to be trading one billionaire owner for another.
Well, hopefully that billionaire owner, spends money and treats his people and his fans a bit better. As for Stephanie, everything I've heard from her outside of like the on-screen stuff, she's seemingly a very nice person, very down to earth. I think she's done great work in terms of like community stuff and for the company. She seems to be great at that. Her and Titus O'Neil just absolutely tag teaming that son of a bitch, kicking ass at it. But no, I think, and she did well in her job. So, and then on the on-screen part, yeah, I got frustrated with her sometimes, but she also got her comeuppance a good amount of times. She went to a table when Triple H faced Roman, just to name one thing. But so it was fun seeing her on screen. Her with the Daniel Bryan stuff was great.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna kind of miss her as a character. She worked better in smaller doses towards the end there. Obviously back when she was on TV every day, I think she was a bit better. But in the authority role, smaller doses work. But I'm still gonna miss her showing up every once in a while and hyping things up. And I'm sure she'll come back every once in a while. But yeah. So, and then on the flip side of that, you have Nick Kahn coming in as a full-time CEO. He's obviously been a part of this company now for a while. I think, and he's been co-CEO with Steph until obviously now. But now we have Vince as chairman and him as CEO. And I think he's mostly there to help facilitate this sale because I think he can do that the best as opposed to Vince, whose best assets mind-wise go towards wrestling. And obviously Nick Khan's background in terms of working with big time, representation agencies, he's very suited to this job. So I think he's going to do well in a business sense, helping facilitate the sale to whomever it may be, hopefully not the Saudis.
I actually got to correct you on something a little bit.
Okay.
I am sure Nick Khan is there to help facilitate this. Obviously, that's part of his job. Those are part of his duties. But Vince McMahon is a crafty businessman.
Oh, yeah, that's not. Yeah, I meant more business in terms of like he's a crafty businessman when it comes to like wrestling business. I think a sale of a multi-billion-dollar company might be a little bit out of his wheelhouse. Although he did buy one once, but it was only for like $4 million.
Was it really only for $4 million?
So the front of Squared Circle right now is us. I'll pull it up really quick. It's a fun fact about Vince buying WCW. So give me a second. Yeah. So in the summer of 2000, and I want to credit the poster here, Satin's best friend. In the summer of 2000, SFX Entertainment offered AOL Time Warner $500 million for WCW. They declined. It then sold less than a year later to the WWF for $4.2 million. Obviously, that was just for inflation, but that's a steal, as the kids say.
Like, just thinking about that today, like, oh my God. So many people could have come in and just bought it.
Yeah, it's like reverse Netflix blockbuster.
That's honestly crazy to me. Wow. Learned something new today. But yeah, no. We've always said Vince McMahon, especially in wrestling, especially with how he ran the company in the 90s and going against WCW, a lot of how he succeeded was through luck. He lucked out into Austin. He lucked out into The Rock. And granted, he knew how to give them the ball and they ran with it. But a lot of what happened was mismanagement on WCW's part. You know, we got WWE got Austin because WCW didn't know what to do with Stunning Steve.
I mean, Undertaker was in WCW too, if I remember correctly. Very briefly.
Very briefly. And that was, very briefly, I think. And I'd say it was before it was WCW as we knew it.
It was before Bischoff WCW.
Big time. And Vince lucked out with the talent he had. Because what was it, 82 weeks, 84 weeks in a row?
It's the name of Eric Bischoff's podcast is 82 weeks, so I'm going to go with 82.
There you go. So
thank you, Matthew.
That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because a product is better or a product is more captivating in certain ways. And thankfully, they were able to turn it around. I can't imagine what the alternate reality would be of WCW winning the war and WWF going out of business. I don't know what that would look like today, but yeah, it's man, what a world.
I did kind of throw you for a loop here, but
you did. In
terms of Nick Kahn though, and Vince being a businessman.
I apologize.
Vince wrestling wise has always been a great businessman, but I mean, you look at some of his other ventures, they haven't exactly been overly successful. The XFL the first time didn't, obviously failed. The second time, I'm gonna cut him some slack. That COVID was a great league, and COVID killed it. And hopefully, The Rock can bring it back. They had the restaurant in I think Times Square that didn't work very well. Of course, you've been. And I know WWE Studios, it does okay. But I imagine it's not the most profitable thing in the world, depending on their situations.
I think they make money for the market they're in. They probably did very well on like DVDs and Blu-rays back when like everyone was buying Blu-rays and DVDs. Yeah. And I think they did pretty well on streaming, but
my point being, like, I'm sure like the Marine 4 was in the black, but they probably didn't spend a lot of money on it, and they probably didn't make too much, to get into the black. Yeah. So, Vince, like, he could do well with business. Obviously, he's gotten his TV deals over the years, and those have been very lucrative for them. And they got WWE Network was a very revolutionary thing, I think, even though they went and then fucked it up with Peacock, but they got the money, so it is what it is. But I just don't know Vince. I don't know if Vince knows how to facilitate a multi-billion-dollar deal, and I think that's where Nick Kahn comes in.
That's very likely. It's why he was brought in the first place, to help make WWE as appealing a purchase as possible.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he's going to do well on his job. Like you mentioned, we wish Steph all the best. And this is obviously a saga we're going to have to continue to watch. Like I said the other night, I don't think the sale is going to happen for a while. And even when an agreement is made, it's got to pass through the shareholders approving it, and the SEC's got to approve it, which honestly isn't as difficult as it used to be. Go look at any antitrust lawsuit in the last 10 years or even the last 20. It's pretty easy to get around those. Cough, Discovery, Warner Brothers, cough, cough, cough. So cough, Disney, Fox, cough, cough. Like, cough, any cell phone company, cough, cough.
I mean, hey, talk to Microsoft and Activision. That deal.
Microsoft got broken up. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I do think we're going to be talking about this for a while, though. To it, let us move on to something else and a completely different company as we turn to New Japan Pro Wrestling, where Jay White, who has just, unfortunately, I guess, lost the IWGP World Championship to Kazuchika Okada. There is now a bunch of rumors floating around that he will be leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling following the reported expiration of his contract. Now, this gets a little complicated because, one, no one actually knows how long Jay White's contract is. I personally read somewhere that he signed a 5-year deal in 2018. James told me before we started that he may have signed a 7-year deal, but no one really knows because he said he has both signed a 7-year deal and said he has not signed a 7-year deal. So he loves working everybody. He also has a loser leaves Japan match with Hikuleo on, I believe, February 11th, James, if that's correct. Thank you.
Yep, New Beginnings.
Right. So you combine that with that match where WWE has also had interest in Hikuleo. They also apparently have interest in Tama Tonga. So this is a bit of a mess here, James. I think it really depends on what Jay wants to do. And I mean a mess in terms of an actual cohesive story.
Yeah.
Just because, like I said, Jay White loves working the dirt sheets. So if Jay White does leave, which I'm not entirely sure he will, and I think you would agree with me there. Obviously, he's going to draw interest from AEW. He's going to draw interest from WWE. What do you, if he does decide to leave, and you can also discuss whether or not you think he's going to, but if he does decide to leave, where do you think his best option is?
So I know you said it's a mess. Personally, I kind of love it.
Oh, no, it's a great storyline. It's just very up in the air at the moment. It's very hard to talk about or give an intro to something where there's no concrete facts.
Oh no, and you did the best you could. The reality is I love free agency in wrestling.
Oh, it's so much fun.
The speculation just it runs rampant, and you never know. You never really know. Even when you do know, there's always that 2% doubt kind of thing.
Missed a prime opportunity to say run wild. God damn it! But my point stands. You missed a prime opportunity there, brother.
I think the most realistic option is he stays in Japan. And on some level, I think that's probably his best option. Outside of just wanting to leave Japan and wanting to work the United States, I don't think there's... I think WWE would want him. I think AEW would want him, and I'll get to that part in a second. But I don't think either company would give him the spot that he currently has in Japan, which is one of the top guys. And
leader of Bullet Club.
Leader of Bullet Club.
Can't get a lot better than that.
Leader of Bullet Club, main evented Wrestle Kingdom multiple time IWGP champion. It's going to be a Bryan Danielson effect where we'd all be excited to see him go elsewhere. But the reality is anything short of winning a world title almost immediately is going to feel like a step down. And it's a tough position to be in when you're a booker, and it's a tough position when you're the talent. So operating under the guise that he might actually leave Japan. I've heard, I don't know how true it is, but it's been reported that AEW has in fact approached Jay White about joining the company. I've heard WWE has at least expressed interest if they haven't outright tried to make a play for him yet. I think between the two companies, I think he'd be a better fit in AEW. I think he has more exciting matches in WWE because I know. I think a lot of the top matches he'll have in AEW, we've seen in some ways. Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley, Hangman Adam Page. I think a lot of the top talent.
I was going to say Adam Cole. I know it was the 4-way. I don't know if they faced off one-on-one.
I don't believe they have.
I guess your best match at the moment off the top of my head is probably Bryan Danielson.
Probably Bryan Danielson.
But then after that, MJF, and then where do you go from there?
And I mean, granted, when you have a talent like Jay White, you do book around him for certain people. Like him versus Swerve. Oh, my God.
Oh, God, those two of the slimiest motherfuckers I can think of.
Exactly. So, yeah, you could fit him in for other stuff. But when you think of WWE, you have Jay White versus Roman Reigns. You have Jay White versus Seth freaking Rollins. You have Jay White versus Johnny Gargano. You have Jay White versus, I know that I said there's more and I'm struggling now, but
Cody? Is he for Cody?
Rhodes. No. They've interacted, and Cody sort of almost ruined Jay White's United States Championship win. And that was never truly resolved. But yeah, Cody's a great option.
When was that the one? That wasn't the Bullet Club is Fine one, was it? When he ruined his Jay White's win? It
was around that time when Jay won the title from Kenny Omega, and Hangman comes out trying to say, "I'm next. I'm coming for you, Jay White."
Yeah, it was this one.
Yeah, and then Kenny just says, no, it's his moment, stop it. And then Cody comes out and he says, you're ruining his moment. And it was just this whole thing. And great.
That started the Cody, Kenny stuff. And I remember that from being Elite.
But yeah, just looking more at the roster, Jay White versus Finn Balor, Jay White versus AJ Styles, Jay White versus Kevin friggin' Owens, Jay White versus Sami Zayn, from just a ring, like just again, like that methodical thing that both guys do. Jay White versus Randy Orton, God willing, Randy comes back.
Jay White versus John Cena.
John Cena versus anybody at this point for me.
I know, but that'd be pretty cool.
Jay White versus Bray Wyatt. They both play in mind games. It's just two different types of mind games. Jay White versus Sheamus or Drew. He's got a lot of fresh matchups in WWE that we've never seen and would be good. Now, granted,
do we trust WWE to do them right?
Exactly. Like I have more faith with Triple H as a booker, but at the same time, we don't know what the hell's going on with WWE. We don't know how long Triple H might be the booker.
Yep.
So I think the safer option for him is AEW. I do. But there is a part of me that does think it would be more exciting for him in WWE.
I would be a little curious to know if obviously now, as we said, false Saudi rumors maybe gives them a little pause, and not even necessarily thinking, oh, Saudi Arabia might be owning this and I don't want to deal with that, but which is possible if they do end up buying it, but also too, maybe for him, let me wait until I see who buys this before I make a decision of if I want to go there.
Well, one of the big things that I have heard is apparently a lot of talent aren't as concerned about the Saudi Arabia of it all, and more just the Vince McMahon of it all.
Yes, I read that too.
So I don't know how any of this definitely applies to Jay White. Jay is always working us, and
he plays things pretty close to the vest.
I won't know where Jay White's going in probably until 2024. When all of it's already over. So by then I'll feel more confident that I know where Jay White's actually going to end up. But I do think AEW provides a freedom that he would enjoy, because being in AEW means he can appear elsewhere. He can go back to Japan for certain things when they need him. I think Japan would be his best option, unless, again, he's looking for money, which, God bless him, which he has every right to. And he just wants to work the States more, because of the different audience and having potentially a higher ceiling without Okada around.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, but there is a lot of potential for him.
I wish there was almost a way he could possibly stay with New Japan and then also work AEW for 6 months at a time, or maybe for the whole year or something. Because I wonder if it's a let me get this out of my system thing, or just because he wants to do something different, and maybe if he just gets it out of his system, he can go back. Maybe that would be cool for him. I don't really know.
No, I agree. And again, I talked about it with getting worked. We don't know what he wants. He hasn't shared it with anybody. And he could have, again, freedom is a big thing, but like I just said, it could be that he wants money. It could be that he wants freedom. It could be that he wants a change of scenery. I don't know. But yeah. Either way, wherever he ends up, that roster will be the better for having Jay White in it.
Oh, absolutely. He's obviously one of the best wrestlers in the world. And I think you made a good point. We're really not going to know what's going to end up happening with him until it actually happens. So
just don't expect him in the Royal Rumble, guys. He's not going to be in the Royal Rumble no matter what.
Obviously, that loser leaves Japan match is until February 11th. So it's clearly not going to happen. But we will stick with it, and we'll have fun speculating about it until it actually happens. But like you said, we're not going to know what happens until it actually happens. Hey guys, sorry about the weird jump, little technical difficulties, but we are back and we are moving straight into our final story of this episode, which is the report that came out earlier on Wednesday that FTR will be getting a little bit of time off, according to Dax Harwood. they're going to be taking a few months to get themselves back together, heal up a bit, and so on and so forth. Honestly, after that Ring of Honor pay-per-view and them going to Japan, I can't really blame them. They've been pulling some, really heavy lifting lately. That match at the Ring of Honor pay-per-view against the Briscoes was a dog collar match. It was brutal. It was bloody. I saw a lot of jokes about Dax breaking his ass. So we got that. You obviously had the New Japan match as well, which is also very good and fairly hard hitting, if not maybe as long or brutal, but it's Japan. They work stiff over there.
Yep.
So I know they had, oddly enough, it seemed like they had a bit of time off for a few months in 2022, James, and now they're getting time off again. But I don't think that time off was planned the way this was, especially because they were holding 3 sets of titles. But I think they deserve this time off. They are obviously hurting pretty bad after everything they've just gone through in the ring. So I am totally here for FTR to take a bit of time off after losing all of their titles and just chill out, get healthy, and then come back to a huge pop in a couple of weeks.
And honestly, doesn't it explain a lot about how much they've been losing that they're taking time away? I'm sure one had to do with the other.
Yeah, it sucked that they lost all their titles in such rapid succession, but yeah, it was definitely a cause and effect thing there.
Yeah. 2022 was because creative had nothing for them. 2023 is, it seems it's on their terms, so good for them if that's what they need right now to get it together and to just rebuild, regroup, recuperate.
That creative had nothing for them thing was such bullshit. I mean, it was really true, but
I agree.
To borrow a line from you, they booked themselves into a corner, and the way you don't do that is not book it in the first place.
Yep.
And it wasn't even them booking themselves into a corner. Other companies booked them to be champions, which then made it weird that they were not AEW champions, but they couldn't be AEW champions because the Acclaimed had that shit locked up. So,
but you could even make the argument the Acclaimed only got to that position because of FTR's poor booking.
Yeah.
They were given the title shot at the pay-per-view, and that just everything snowballed from there. And don't get me wrong, obviously they were over, and the Acclaimed was over, we're going to be over no matter what. But that rise happened very quickly, and that was because of the landscape of what the tag team division was. So you could argue if FTR was booked properly, no Acclaimed title run now.
Possibly. But you couldn't. It was weird because they had those titles. WWE couldn't book them a certain way because they couldn't lose. Or AEW. Thank you. AEW couldn't. Well, WWE couldn't book them at all. AEW couldn't book them a certain way because they couldn't have them lose too often. But then having them win a bunch would mean they had to get a title shot, and they eventually did get their title shot, and they lost. But like they were going to be number one contender because they constantly had to win. Because you couldn't upset these 3 other companies, although technically one of them was Tony Khan, so he didn't really care. But like it was a really narrow like thread they were trying to hit there. Really small target, and they just threading that type of needle is not easy. So it's understandable, but it's annoying. Yeah,
you pulled it together with your analogies and metaphors. Good for you there.
Thank you.
But
it's understandable, but annoying.
Yeah, no, I agree. It sucks when you have such a talented wrestler, or in this case, wrestlers, and you know that they could be booked better, or you know that they're not being booked to their fullest potential. It sucks, and we've seen sometimes the tragedies of that stuff, like Brody Lee, a guy who was booked in limbo for a long time, and then finally, when he broke out, tragedy struck, unfortunately. And obviously, that's an extreme case of it. But that is part of why FTR right now wants to take time off. They want to enjoy life with their families. They want to enjoy a little rest, a little relaxation. And they've earned it. They've absolutely earned it. They've created something truly special and magical in 2022, going after and winning all those tag titles. It's not like a lot of guys who go on a belt collector gig and it's for small companies that don't matter. They won the Ring of Honor tag titles. They won the IWGP tag titles. They had the AAA tag titles. That's quite the nice feather to have in your cap.
Yeah,
But,
especially if you're not going to be able to get the AEW titles because they had just lost them. It's a really good way to bounce back. And not to mention, too, they had that really organically brewed face run.
Yeah.
For the first time, I think probably in their entire careers. Like they were faces and it was great.
It's, you know, at the end of the day, I want to see them, and as an extension of what I was saying before, I just want to see them booked properly and thrive. Now, that does lead to the speculation as to what comes next after this time off, because their contracts are up this year. We don't know, are they going to stick around in AEW? Are they looking maybe elsewhere, maybe to go back somewhere, go somewhere new? I don't really know what their plan is. I think their best option is to stay in AEW, where tag team wrestling is treated with respect. But I don't know what their mentality is, what they're hoping for. I know one of the big things that they say is they just want to be respected wherever they work. And I think they will get a lot of respect if they stay in AEW. But who knows? Other than taking time off, there's a reason these companies took their titles off them. Let's be realistic. New Japan, I think their defense at Wrestle Kingdom might have been their second defense.
I mean, they won them at Forbidden Door, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And then they defended them at least once against a New Japan tag team in AEW, but I genuinely can't think of anything else. Unless they went to Strong and I missed it. Like I think they might have. I think they did. I think they showed up as Strong once. So maybe they had 3 defenses. Maybe, or 2 defenses rather. And the third being Wrestle Kingdom where they lost.
So I mean, clearly Japan didn't really care about how often they defended the belts. So maybe they didn't need to take them off them. But they did. AAA never cares about who their champions are as long as they're draws, because championships aren't as important in Mexico. But they took them off them. And Ring of Honor, the same thing. Who cares who the Ring of Honor tag team champions are right now, because there isn't a Ring of Honor. But Tony took the titles off them.
Well, so, I would argue for New Japan, those belts were just kind of stuck in America, and taking the titles off of them at Wrestle Kingdom makes sense because they kind of need the titles back. If FTR isn't going to be able to go to Japan on a regular basis to defend them, and if the rumors are true and New Japan Strong is indeed winding down, there's no real point for New Japan keeping the titles on them. And I would think for Ring of Honor, I don't think Tony Khan wants them on Ring of Honor. I think he wants them on AEW when they're wrestling. So them continuing to be the Ring of Honor champions is, a little foolish, I guess, or backwards at least. So putting it on a team that is basically relegated to Ring of Honor due to outside circumstances also makes sense. And yeah, maybe them losing the AAA titles is because they wanted to take some time off. And they said, hey, guys, like, we're not going to be wrestling. Let's get the belts off of us so you guys can do something else with it. I think that's fair. And I think that's actually a pretty stand-up thing for them to do instead of just kind of holding the titles hostage. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, there's a reason, but I don't think it's a bad one. I don't think it's a negative one. I just think it's the way things kind of just fell out at this point in time. And because Wrestle Kingdom was coming up and they had just done the Ring of Honor show where things seem to be resetting now for Ring of Honor, I think it was a very good opportunity for them to lose both those sets of titles. So it makes a lot of sense to me.
I would also like to point out, I did look it up, FTR did only defend the titles twice. So
no strong appearance. It was just the one time and then Wrestle Kingdom.
It seems that way.
I swear to God, they showed up on Strong. Maybe they just didn't wrestle for the titles. Maybe. Or rather defend the titles, but I could have swore they were on Strong. Odd. I also am curious to continue with your line of speculation, and this kind of goes back to what I said with Jay White. With WWE, do you think that they probably want to wait out and see what ends up happening with the sale and who ends up taking control of creative? Because I do think that Triple H in charge of WWE is a bit of a draw for them. They're pretty close with him from NXT. I think they think that he would book them properly and treat them with respect. I think if Vince takes control again, I think that's a bit of a negative in the column of WWE when it comes to FTR returning.
I mean, look what happened to them when they were booked under Vince McMahon. It did not go well.
Exactly. They were shaving each other's back and getting hit with itching powder and stuff by the Usos. It was weird. So I think if Vince is in charge, I think WWE is just straight up off the table. If it's Triple H, depending on how the sale goes and who's still in charge there in terms of creative, I think it could be a viable option if they want to work a WWE schedule again.
Well, of course, that's a big thing. You're on the road a lot more with WWE, although apparently AEW might be on the road a little bit more now moving forward too. That's probably something we should talk about.
I was literally typing in the chat to you. Do you want to talk about AEW starting live events? We actually forgot about that, and we probably should have put it in our doc, and we didn't.
That's how we do it here at the pod, guys. We're
stumble into things
live. Oh god, this is why they didn't take out the boss line for Britt Baker. It doesn't matter if it's pre-taped. But yeah, end of the day, I wish the best to FTR. I want them where they'll thrive. I think that's AEW, but only they know what's best for them.
Yeah, obviously they know what's best for them. But yeah, I hope they enjoy their time off. I hope they heal up well. I hope Dax's ass is okay.
That's the most important thing, actually.
Yep. And I hope they just, like I said, I hope they enjoy it, heal up, spend time with their families. And when they're ready to come back, I hope we get them back and they blow the roof off the place, which I imagine they will. And honestly, too, now I'm thinking about it, just to recklessly speculate, I'd be curious to see if they maybe make a run at the trios titles with somebody. I don't know who it would be.
Oh yeah, you don't know who it would be?
I mean, my guess would be, that guy. It could be that guy. But if he's not there, I don't know. I don't know who it would be.
Yeah, I think we know who
it would probably be that guy. But for those of you who are confused,
I will say, if WWE had a trios title, I know who they would do it with. Randy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They love their FTR KO run.
That was really fun. It was short-lived, but it was hilarious.
Yep. Oh man, those were the days.
All right, well, I was gonna say, since we brought it up, why don't we discuss AEW beginning to do some live events? Tony Khan announced on Wednesday, I believe it was, that the wrestlers want to do it. So Tony has decided to start running some more live events. I think this is a good idea. I think it's exciting. Honestly, if I was him, I would maybe just consider making these shows the Dark and the Dark Elevation tapings. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone there. But at the same time, now that I said that out loud, people are going to want to see people like the Elite and Adam Cole and, MJF and Bryan Danielson, your top tier talent. Unless you're just booking squash matches on Dark with all of them, people don't really want to see that. But
I think if they are smart, they'll tape some of that with the house show. Yeah, I don't even know, but there might even be like financial situations with that'll be complicated because
running shows and taping them in the arenas can be
expensive. Two different things. Yeah,
as opposed to doing it on the sound stage where they used to do Impact. Like TNA Impact.
I love the Impact Zone, man. I thrived in there. I thrived in there.
I was laughing really hard the time the Bucks were on Dark and they were like, "We're back." And it's like, and that's the place where I got yelled at by this guy, and that's the place where I got yelled at by that guy, and that's where I got yelled at by Dixie Carter, and that's where we quit.
No one could ever accuse the Bucks of not having a good sense of humor.
And it's like, that's where we met Okada. So I think this will be fun, though. I think this will allow them to run a lot of towns that they normally don't do. I honestly, my big thing is I think it'll help a lot of the younger wrestlers get more reps in, because the only time they really get reps in is on Dark and Dark Elevation. And that's good because it's TV reps. And there is a difference between TV reps and just live show reps, but even still, the in the ring in front of a crowd reps are very important. And I think a lot of the times you can see in some of these younger wrestlers, or even people who are returning, like Saraya, for instance, she hasn't really done much that we've seen. The other day was only her second televised match. And you could tell like she could use the reps. And I'm not saying she's wrestling bad. I'm just saying there's definitely a difference between having the reps and having the repetitiveness of just going out there and doing this all the time, as opposed to just doing it once a week or occasionally twice a week if you Rampage is live. You know, there's a huge difference between the two.
I completely agree. I mean, hey, look, I know a lot of people criticized it. Bray Wyatt's first match back was at a house show. Granted, it was at the Garden, but it was at a house show. And they did that because they want to get the guy warmed up again. So I totally see the value in house shows. I totally see the value in dark matches, dark segments. Not AEW dark, but dark stuff. And, you know, I'm a little worried. I'll be honest. I am a little cautious about it. I'm excited because that means more opportunities to actually go to shows, and live shows are always have a different vibe than TV. Always will, always have.
They're a lot goofier.
They absolutely are. There's more freedom, but the dark side of it, again, dark, is that these guys whose bodies are used to the once a week showings, who it's safer for, now they're working a little bit more during the week, and honestly, their bodies are going to get worn down a little bit more. So it's a double-edged sword in that regard. But hey, if the guys and the girls backstage are willing to put their bodies through it, good for them. And if they're running, I'll probably go to them.
Yeah, if they come back in, you know, the tri-state area, I'm definitely going to go to one if, you know, the tickets aren't too bad. But I do think a lot of the people who are really on that once a week schedule, and it's like not all they can do, but it's what works best for them, whether it's their body or, you know, they have a job involving teeth where they have to be there most of the week.
Yeah.
You know, I got to imagine that they're probably not going to be on the road. I think a lot of what's going to end up happening is they'll probably end up rotating out some of the bigger talent depending on where they are and how often those people can wrestle. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they'll do a loop and it'll be like these people and they'll be on that loop, you know, along with a bunch of the younger talent who maybe, you know, who needs the reps. And then they'll do another loop and it'll be like these, you know, 5 or 6 big stars and then so on and so forth. You know, if they do Pittsburgh on a freaking Monday or whatever, I'm sure Britt will show up. But exactly. If they're doing, you know, Montana, and she's not going to be there, she's got to pull somebody's teeth and clean some plaque. Like, she's busy. And, you know, that's one of the reasons why she said she wanted to go to AEW, because they let her be a dentist, and that's what she wants to do with her life, along with wrestling. So I don't think Tony Khan would be one to stop that. And I also don't think Tony Khan is stupid enough to put some of his veterans on the road for an extended period of time. Jericho is not doing more than 1 match a week. I don't think his body can necessarily handle it. And not that his body can't handle it, but it just puts him at so much more of a risk for injury than he needs to be at. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
As opposed to, I think Dustin Rhodes, depending on when this starts up, he probably might do it a little more, because he was saying at the beginning of the year, he's like, you don't wrestle for a while, and then you go back in and you think you're going to be okay. And then you realize your body doesn't have all the calluses and stuff and taking the bumps. And he's like, I hurt more today than I did after like my 30th match in a row.
Yeah.
And so I think he might be a guy who probably ends up wrestling a little bit more. So he's just a little more, not necessarily fresh, but in the groove when he ends up on Dynamite or Rampage, because this does appear to be his final year, and I think he really wants to go out in style.
Yeah.
So
it seems like this is a plus all aboard, all across the board. So
yeah, I definitely think it'll be interesting. Yep, I definitely think it'll be interesting, and I don't think there's too much of a risk of overexposure.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I don't see it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. But as we were talking about last time, AEW ran this area, like when I attended that Bridgeport show and it was absolutely empty. Because they had done Bridgeport like 4 times in the last like 6 months or something.
And the reality is too, on a different level, house shows tend to be cheaper than television.
Yep.
So maybe families who can't really afford to take their kids to a Dynamite, they might be able to take them to a house show instead. So I do think that the more we talk about it, the more positives I am seeing.
Yeah, you can run smaller venues too.
Yeah.
Which is, it sounds like that's a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing because you probably pay less for them. You make more on the gate and sell merch, and you're probably more than breaking even at that point. So
and you get to go to areas you wouldn't have been able to because
they don't have a big arena.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I was joking about Montana, but I'm sure there's a city in Montana. I'm actually pretty sure there's a city in Montana, but but I'm sure like there's somewhere they could run in like those smaller areas, especially in like the Midwest. Like, when do they ever get to go to Iowa?
Yeah.
Or something like, or a Dakota. Yeah, there's only
either of them.
Yeah, there's one Dakota. They don't need 2. They get 1. But seriously, like, when do they ever get to go to those places? Because they need to run, good wrestling cities, for lack of a better phrase, because they need the money. But if they can just go run a smaller show in, Des Moines, that'd probably be a good thing.
Yeah.
So I like this. I think it'll help grow the brand, and it'll help get a lot of the younger talent reps, or some of the older talent who wants to, stay in the groove, as I said.
Stay fit.
Yep, stay fit. I think that'll be good too. And we haven't even brought this up yet. The whole reason Double J Jeff Jarrett is there is to run this. And he can obviously do it. He was doing WWE for years. So they got somebody in place who can run this, and I think do a very good job at it too.
Yay, AEW.
Yay, EW.
Yay, EW.
Not to be confused with Hey, EW. Shout out that show. Different. That's very, very funny. I highly recommend the Danhausen episode. Also, the Taz one is pretty funny because Taz just got confused the whole time.
Oh my God. I just realized it's Hey, EW. Wow. I swear to God, because I've only read it. I've only read the transcripts. So I'm like, hey, ew. I'm getting dumber. I'm getting older, and I'm not getting wiser, guys. I'm getting dumber. Hey, EW. I am an idiot. Wow. That makes so much sense. Like, what the fuck is hey, ew?
Oh God. Oh God.
Oh, RJ.
I guess you have to go watch it now.
Yeah, no, I have to watch it now. Hey, ew. What? Oh my God. I'm like, do you know what the worst part about it? I swear to God, this is the worst part about it. I'm like, hey, ew, really only gets AEW guys on it, doesn't he? Like,
you didn't realize there was an AEW backstage show?
No, I didn't. Oh God.
All right, that's it. I'm done. We're ending the show.
That's the end of the night, guys. Oh, so much just made so much sense to me.
All right, I'll try to end this.
That's your clip right there, man.
Oh no, trust me, I already know. Okay, I'll try to compose myself, but in the meantime, thank you everybody so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe so you can see James make more life-changing revelations. Plus, you can also watch this review Dynamite every Wednesday live after the show, along with Danny's Raw Fast Forwards on Mondays. The Gym Packed Zone. James, do you get that one?
Oh yeah, I get it. Thanks,
okay. James does Impact reviews every Thursday, and we also cover pay-per-views and big breaking news, like when somebody accidentally thinks that Saudi Arabia is buying WWE. Also, Be sure to check out all of our social media stuff. It's in the description below: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm sure you'll be able to watch back James realizing what AEW was on a loop if you want to. So be sure to go follow us on all those platforms as well. So for James Gisante, my name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching the Market Down podcast. James, you get that one too, right?
Good night, guys.
Have a good one, everyone.
That's so bad. I like. I'm kind of ashamed of myself.
Bye, everyone.